You're listening to Spurscast, episode 556. My name is Paul Garcia, and I am the host of the Spurscast. Joining me for this episode, right before the NBA season begins, is Project Spurs' founder, Michael DeLeon. Mike, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. The preseason panic haven't set in yet, so I think I'm doing all right.
It hasn't set in for you? Man, on Spurs Twitter, I've been getting, why is Lonnie Walker the fourth not playing? They're 0-3 and all this stuff. Yeah, so all right, let's go ahead and get started here. Mike, we're going to kick off this episode by going into some preseason trends. Kind of now that the Spurs have played three preseason games, we're going to see kind of what are some trends that we're starting to notice. In these games, we don't want to focus too much into them because again, they are preseason. A lot of the times, the full lineups aren't even out there. Guys are sitting out that are going to be in real games when they start next week. But one trend I'm already seeing it's pretty much been very consistent right now, Mike, is the starting backcourt. It looks like it's going to end up being Dejounte Murray and Bryn Forbes. It's a nice balance for the Spurs. You get a dribble drive kind of creator in Dejounte, who's still working on his jump shot. It's really early with that new form that he's bringing out. And then you balance that with his really good defense, which is superb. I mean, he's just playing really, really well defensively. And then, you counterbalance that with Bryn on the other side of him and DeMar, who's able to shoot threes. And I mean, in a little bit, I'm going to read you some of the numbers about Bryn Forbes' three-point shot right now. But, I mean, he's doing really well. So real quick, what are some of your impressions over those two guys? Are you surprised that it is Dejounte and Bryn Forbes again, probably?
Yeah, I wasn't sure how it was going to go, but that kind of made the most sense to me, especially when we start to see that Dejounte and Derek weren't playing together too much. That Bryn is obviously a guy that I think that he showed the coaching staff last year and showed Pop, what he was capable of and stepping into that role that he needed to start the season. And I think he ended up averaging somewhere around, I want to say about 12 points a game, which was a big difference from what he had averaged, the years before. And now he's starting to show that wasn't just, that wasn't just like a flash in the pan type of thing. Like he's actually capable of doing that scoring two guards. So I'm not too surprised because Dejounte, even if he struggles with this shot, that Bryn's always going to be there. Then you have additional scoring from DeMar, and I think you just have to have a capable 3-point shooter in the lineup there. So Bryn's obviously that guy.
Yeah, I wrote down some notes just that I wanted to kind of discuss here. In terms of Dejounte, looking at his offense, he's slowly getting more aggressive. He's definitely not afraid to get fouled. Go hard to the rim. And that's a good sign considering that his confidence is there. Coach Pop mentioned that last night after the New Orleans game. And then he's also showing his cut ability where he can kind of go right by a guy in transition and get a layup or a floater. The jump shot is coming along. I know that was a big thing. Bryn Forbes got set some high expectations in training camp when he said Dejounte's jumper is what do you say? It's money now or something like that. His mid-range jumper. Yeah, he said it's money now. Well, it's only preseason, but he's 3 of 11, so 27%. But again, I think what Bryn means there is that the form definitely looks better. So the numbers don't quite show it yet for his jumper, Dejounte, but his form is definitely there. It's a little bit quicker. It looks more smoother so far in the sampling that we've seen. And then, like I said, he gives the Spurs another playmaker who can kind of create for himself, get in the pick and roll. If there's if it's a one-on-one possession late in the shot clock, he can kind of go to the rim as well, and he's demonstrated that alongside LaMarcus and DeMar DeRozan. And then defensively, I mean, you just see what the Spurs missed last year without him. He's just all over the place, disrupting possessions, getting in passing lanes. There was a possession against the Pelicans where Brandon Ingram gets him in the post. He thinks that he has an easy post up. Well, when they throw the entry pass into into Ingram, Dejounte just scoops it out of the air. I know a video clip that's been going around on Twitter is that he blocked Zion Williamson in like a help defensive play under the rim. I didn't even see that, and I was there in person. But I mean, that's surprising. I did see the video footage afterward. The people were showing that he blocked Zion on a play. So again, he's just going to bring a lot more to that team. And then Bryn, like I mentioned with Bryn, I mean, his first game against Orlando, he scores 24 points. Miami, he didn't play as many minutes, so he scores 5 points. And then against New Orleans, he ends up scoring 18. Just check this out, Mike. Bryn has made so far in 3 preseason games 9 of 14 3-pointers. 9 out of 14. He's only missed 5. And he's responsible for 43% of the Spurs' 3-pointers. 43% of those made threes are because of Bryn. Did you have anything you wanted to add there after that?
No, just that's just an incredible clip that he's shooting at, and that's not something that that's going to be hard to keep up, but it's just showing kind of like where he's at, and obviously he spent a lot of time in the off season, so that looks great that he's able to do that, and he looks really comfortable stepping into shots and like finishing in transition. He'll pull up, and that's something we saw Danny Green doing for years. Whereas before, it's like he had to kind of be set, and so now he's able to do it off the dribble a lot more, and so I like what I'm seeing there. And yeah, I mean, Bryn's that guy that I think everybody was ready to give up on before last season. Now it's like you really don't have an option. This guy is like, he's been responsible for a large part of the offense last year, and he might be this year as well. So he's definitely making things harder for the front office staff, especially when they have to look at him and his salary after this year.
I think one thing that's really, really impressive about him is that, he definitely adds to his game. You can see that, when somebody tries to run him off the three-point line, he's so comfortable now, either just kind of pump faking and going in for a mid-range jumper, or even last night against the Pelicans, he got all the way to the rim and dunked the ball. I mean, he basically has counters now for when you're trying to take away his strength, which is his three-point shot. Mike, you mentioned this earlier. Because Forbes is now basically showing that he's probably going to be the starting two, the impact is that we're not going to get to see that lineup that everyone was excited for this summer in Derek White and Dejounte Murray sharing the court defensively. So far they just haven't had. Pop hasn't played them at all together to start this season. And right now you see that Pop's kind of going more so, even though there is probably a lot to gain defensively. He's definitely wants that balance on offense by having somebody with the 3-point shot out there in Bryn before going to that lineup. However, Mike, you and I are recording this on a Monday evening, and the Spurs do play on Wednesday the Houston Rockets, who starts Russell Westbrook and James Harden. Do you think there's a chance that we might see the Derek White Dejounte combo now against the Rockets?
That seems like the best opportunity to get that lineup out there, just because obviously they're both very potent scorers and very athletic guys, so that might be the best opportunity. And honestly, I think that's the way it's going to go for the rest of the season. It's going to be kind of based on matchups, because I think any other game, I think Pop likes having a defender out there with the shooter, and I mean with the that's kind of the same way with the Derek and Marco. Marco's a shooter, but he can get caught defensively a lot of times, and Derek White can kind of pick up that defensive slack. But against a team that has those two guys like that, then that's when you might have to go to a Derek Dejounte lineup, because Bryn is obviously that's a tough task for him, because he's going to have to take on one of those guys, and either one of them is going to be probably bigger and a little bit stronger than him.
Yeah. So now let's shift over to the bench unit, the second unit, kind of what's been kind of taking place here. The starting lineup, if I'm assuming on opening night, is probably going to be right now Dejounte Murray at the 1, Bryn Forbes at the 2, DeRozan at the 3, and then the Spurs are looking like they're going to go traditional with Aldridge at the 4 and Jakob Poeltl at the 5. So what does this mean off the bench? You probably have Patty Mills at the 1, Derek White at the 2, and then right now Pop's been playing a lot more Marco Belinelli at that backup 3 behind DeRozan, and then either Rudy Gay or DeMarre Carroll at the 4. So what's the impact there is that, over the summer, Lonnie Walker was really impressive in Summer League. A lot of people thought he would, this is going to be a huge jump for Lonnie in year 2. But, I think it was Colin who first told me this. He's like, don't get your expectations really high. You know how Pop is, his mode of making, he's going to make the young guys like Lonnie have to beat out Belinelli for his minutes. And that's kind of showing to be the case. Outside of that opening night game where a lot of the guys were off, Lonnie did play 25 minutes that night. Then ever since then, he's only played 5 minutes in one game, then 6 minutes. And you've seen Marco's minutes start to increase. You've seen DeMarre Carroll's minutes start to increase as well. So are you surprised that Belinelli's pretty much still the backup 3 ahead of Lonnie?
Not at all. And I've tried to explain this to a lot of people on Twitter, because everybody just seems so outraged about this and talking about how Marco's unplayable. And I'm just like, you have to understand, he's not just going to throw the keys to Lonnie and say, okay, it's yours. I mean, he was injured for a while, that he played, in Austin a lot. And so he's got to see more than a few preseason games to just toss it to him and turn it over like that. I think, the whole corporate knowledge thing is very important to Pop. And Marco, while he may not be the best defender, that he knows where to be most of the time. And Lonnie, the little most, obviously the positive outweighs the negative with him, but when he makes mistakes, I mean, he can really get caught sleeping sometimes. And so he's going to have to, I'm just not surprised. It happened kind of exactly how I expected it. And what I told people is I expect that eventually at some point in the season, Lonnie might take over, but it's not going to happen right away. He's obviously going to go with the guy he trusts overall, who's had years in the system before. So I'm not really surprised at all right now.
So one thing I'm looking at, I was looking at the numbers and I was looking at the minutes that Pop's been distributing right now between Lonnie, Belinelli, Rudy Gay, and DeMarre Carroll. One thing I've noticed is that Pop, he's starting to see what DeMarre brings to the team. He gave him 11 minutes in the second game, and then 17 minutes in the most recent game against New Orleans. Now on opening night of the preseason, DeMarre didn't play. He was resting that game. However, he and Rudy Gay both play a very similar position right now. They're both playing the 4 for the Spurs. So I'm actually wondering now if Pop really likes Carroll because of his defense, and then especially like how he can shoot the ball as well. He showed that by making 3 of 4 threes against New Orleans. If he really likes him a little bit more, he also still needs to give Rudy his minutes. I think there's a chance that perhaps he could maybe just bump down Belinelli and Lonnie down the depth chart and end up giving Carroll that backup 3 spot to get Aldridge's minutes at the starting 4 and then give Rudy Gay the backup minutes at the backup 4. What do you think about that? Perhaps maybe Carroll becoming that backup 3 instead of Belinelli or Walker.
Yeah, and I think this is kind of where DeMarre Carroll benefits from coming from systems that are very similar to the Spurs and having coaches and things that have been in the system, I guess, or with the team. And not only that, he's a veteran. He's smart. He knows what he's doing. And I've actually seen. I knew he was capable of hitting the 3, but he's been hitting it, I think, a little more than I expected at this point. And so I think having another 3-point shooter that can also defend, it's also kind of a leader out there, is something that he'd like. So at this point, that seems like that would be a good move, over, Marco. If he decides to do that, that seems like that would be a smart move. I mean, you have to kind of create minutes and try to get minutes for everybody, and that seems like a natural place for him. Where, like you said, Rudy would still get his minutes in the lineup. So, yeah, I mean, I'd like to see that, and DeMarre might end up start showing a little bit more and help in other areas that we may not have expected this season.
Yeah, for sure. That's something that we'll definitely monitor to see if perhaps Pop goes with that route in terms of getting Marco. Getting Carroll some minutes because obviously he brings the plus on the defensive end where they need some help. And then that 3-point shooting is starting to look a little bit better for him. Last topic on the preseason, Mike. On this part of the preseason, should I say, is I don't want to dig too much into the numbers because it is preseason. I mean, if you think about it, they haven't really, the Spurs really haven't even had their full lineups at all because like at least one star player sits out or a key role player sits out of a game so far to start this. Outside of that Miami game, I guess you would say that second game. Outside to start this, and then we know that Pop by like the third quarter, midway through, he kind of just pulls all the key players that are going to play in the real season and puts in a lot of different guys that are going to end up in the G League or perhaps guys that are going to end up in Austin that are on their rookie contract. So that's kind of what we're seeing, that trend. So it's hard to look at the data and really judge it and take anything quite away from it. But I did notice that in the first 2 games they could only score 89 points. Their offense has just been having issues, which again, new players, everybody's trying to figure it out. Not everybody's there. But then against New Orleans, they looked a lot better. They scored 114 points. They were getting to the paint. They were getting to the free throw line. And I know I'm the person who's the math guy who loves the numbers. And a lot of people, fans and even journalists talk to me. They're like, oh, you're too much of the numbers. However, I will note that LaMarcus and Rudy Gay were out of that game against the Pelicans. They were resting, both of them. Yeah. And the Spurs didn't really take out as many mid-range jumpers. They only took 13 total. They only got 10 points from mid-range. And so what was the benefit? There's more space for Dejounte to attack, for DeMar to attack. Jakob Poeltl got some action. And they also shot more threes. And so sure enough, you saw their best game in preseason of points in the paint, and you saw their best game of getting to the free throw line, plus their most 3-pointers they made. So let me ask you this, Mike. What do you think about the shot selection? Should they really look at that, or do you think it's going to just be what it is, like how it was last year?
Yeah, I mean, I think we probably have to see a larger sample size before we kind of decide on this. But so far, I mean, you're not going to have, the guys that were out are going to miss a large part of the season. So I mean, I expect that it'll probably still be a lot of the same the way it was last year. But if they can, they do have, like I said, those pieces like Bryn, obviously, and DeMar we talked about that can provide a little more outside shooting. That's great as well, but I think it'll still be, quite a lot of mid-range shooting.
Yeah, most likely. I think that's the case as well. And Rudy does definitely takes more threes, and Aldridge has started to at least just taking one a game so far in this preseason. So we'll see. If they do add that a little bit more. I know Pop was asked about adding more threes before the game yesterday, and he did say that is an area of focus for them. They do want to add some more outside scoring for the team. And then defensively, like I said, it's hard to judge this data because it is preseason basketball. Basically, they haven't looked good defensively overall. They've been giving up over 107 points per night in these preseason games. They did look pretty good in the half court on Sunday against New Orleans, holding them to 16 points. That was lowest they've held an opponent so far in the preseason. But Bryn Forbes kind of commented on that. He said that the half court defense, they played a lot better on Sunday. But he says transition, they've just been terrible so far, and that was kind of the case. And it's pretty tough, especially when you're having to guard Zion. Have you taken anything away from the defense just based on this preseason data?
No, but so far, I really, honestly, when I watch a lot of times, I try not to dig in too much just because it seems like it's preseason, and so there's a lot that's probably going to change before we start seeing, obviously lineups and the way they start when they start playing for real, really. Because I feel like sometimes a lot of people look into that stuff a little too much when it's honestly the preseason games are basically Pop throwing lineups and things like that at the wall and trying to see what sticks. And so we really don't know yet. And obviously I think a lot's going to change when they actually tip just over a week now against the Knicks. So I think then I'll probably take away a lot more. There's still a lot of trying to find roles for people also and trying to find minutes. So I'm not sure what we're going to get at this point, I think.
Yeah, no, same here. That's why I didn't want to dig too much into it and go on to all these different directions with the numbers because it's not really good data, honestly, because it is preseason. All right, Mike, last section. Let's go ahead and go into the latest news for the Spurs. They did make a roster change. They waived Dedric Lawson on Sunday after the Pelicans game. That was pretty much expected. He was on an Exhibit 10 contract, which means that now, if he signs with the Austin Spurs, he'll there's like some benefit where he gets like I think $50,000, something like that. He'll basically end up in Austin is the takeaway there. After doing that, though, the Spurs are going to sign Galen Robinson Jr. He's a 6'1" point guard out of undrafted out of Houston. He will make the Spurs have 19 players on their roster. This most likely looks like that same type of deal like Jeff Ledbetter, where they sign him, they're probably going to waive him pretty soon, and then allow him to play in the Austin system. Is that kind of is that your takeaway from them signing Robinson?
I don't even see him being there Wednesday for the Rockets game, to be honest. And I don't know if he'll even make it to a practice. I have a feeling he's going to be signed and then he's going to be waived. I mean, same thing as like Jeff Ledbetter, and then also the other guy was it Matt Farrell?
Yeah, Matt. Oh, that's right, Matt Farrell. Yeah,
same thing.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's just getting the guy. I think really, it's just a rights deal. They had already signed him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because he worked out with them before the draft, went undrafted. So Austin signed him, but this way it kind of allows him to get that Exhibit 10, which allows him to make his bonus plus his salary, and I think it allows him to keep his rights. So that's if he plays, I think, or if he stays at least 60 days with Austin. So that's basically all that's going to be, because really, I mean, there's already so much. And I was afraid that as soon as I put this out there, I was going to see like everybody complaining about why another guard. But again, I don't think he's going to really even see the any game time or maybe not even any practice action. So it's just going to be another guy in San Antonio. I mean, sorry, in Austin. For the Austin Spurs next year.
Yeah, so that's kind of the case right now. The Spurs, with Galen Robinson Jr., they are going to have 19 players on their roster. However, before the first game begins on October 23rd against the Knicks, they will have to waive 2 players, and those 2 players will most likely be Robinson Jr. and then also Dalton Holmes or Holmes. Some of the guys were telling me how to pronounce his name last night at the game, and
yeah,
I don't know how to say it. So anyway, I'm just going to say it. I'm going to stick with Holmes still.
I've heard people say it many ways. So we'll just say that.
Well, either way, they're probably not going to end up being on the San Antonio roster. They're going to end up probably getting waived and then most likely playing in Austin, though. So they'll probably be new Austin Spurs players. All right, Mike, thanks for joining me on Spurscast episode 556. Spurscast listeners, if you are on Twitter, please follow him at MDeLeon. Before we leave this episode, I do want to make sure to remind you all to visit ProjectSpurs.com. Over on Project Spurs, Ben Bornstein is still getting you ready for the draft. His latest piece is called Prospect Watch: San Antonio Spurs Positions of Need. So make sure you check that out by Ben. Also, we are providing one of our free offense and defense game-by-game trackers using preseason data. Now, I know it's just preseason. Mike and I just talked about that. And this is just kind of give you all, the Spurscast listeners and website viewers of Project Spurs, an opportunity right now during the preseason, during these first 5 games, to see what you would get in the regular season if you become a Project Spurs premium member. So again, go check out projectspurs.com. Click on the link that's called Preseason Spurs Offense and Defense Game-by-Game Tracker. In there, you see some really cool offense and defensive stats after each Spurs game, and I do update those exactly right after that Spurs game ends, as soon as I get that data in. And even though it's preseason, you don't want to take too much away from these numbers. I will be providing this to Project Spurs premium members once the season begins on October 23rd against the Knicks. So as soon as that Knicks game ends, I'm going to be updating that stat sheet with new data of real regular season data. So make sure you check out projectspurs.com and sign up to become a premium member if you're not already. Okay, so for Michael DeLeon, I am Paul Garcia. Thank you. Have a great day.
Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans. 30% of Americans who are planning home improvements of $5,000 or more will pay for those renovations with a high-interest credit card. That may not be a great idea. A better idea may be to take cash out of your home with a Quicken Loans 30-year fixed-rate mortgage. The rate today on our 30-year fixed-rate mortgage is 3.99%, APR 4.08%. Call us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com.
Rate subject to change. Pay 1.25% fee to receive this discounted rate. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. License in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030.
Fall is finally here, and so is Old Navy's Big Fall Sale. Get thousands of styles from just $5. All your fall favorites are on sale now. Layer up with $5 tees and $10 long sleeve tees for the whole family, and stock up on sweaters and dresses for just $15. Plus, save even more with up to 75% off clearance styles. Don't miss out. Hurry in for thousands of styles from just $5 now at Old Navy and OldNavy.com. Valid 10/15 to 10/25. Select styles only.